Hey guys, so this is the solution video for problems A to G. Yeah, but I couldn't do this more than EHAB and the bipartiteness because I don't know graph theory, and this one was a bit like I don't know. I couldn't solve it. I didn't get the edge case logic for this one, and also I don't know why this isn't showing up as green, but I have done it. Like I've submitted it twice, but it still does not show green. So anyways, let's move on to the solutions. So the actually code forces was down the whole day. Whenever I tried to open a problem, like it would take like forever to load. So I could not I could not record my video in the morning. Like it's night, almost night time here. So yeah. So problem A, triangular numbers. So yeah, in this problem, what you have to do is you have to figure out a triangle. Sorry, the number of points in a triangle, which is of the form like this one. Like this is a normal triangle, and you have 3 points here, 1, 2, and 3, and some points lie here. Okay, like this. Here are the points. So you have to find uniformly filled with dots. So like all the points would be equal. A number of points on each side will be equal. So they actually they cared for you and gave you a formula to calculate that, so you don't need to visualize this triangle at all. Yeah. So you just calculate how many triangular numbers are possible between a given range. Now you can see n is 500. Okay, so you don't need to think much about it. You just run a simple for loop. You just run a simple for loop and until that range, and find all the triangular numbers, like if they satisfy this range, and then you're good to go. So actually, like I might have explained you something wrong, but you like basically you have to do brute forcing, and then you'll be good to go. Let's see the solution. As you can see, I ran a simple for loop. So this was the number n. Where is it? Yeah, this was the number n which I took as input, and if n upon any iteration from 1 through 50, if any iteration is equal to I into I plus 1 by 2, we print yes and return. Else we print 0 at the end, and we're good to go. Now almost prime B. Yeah. So a number is called almost prime if it has exactly two distinct prime divisors. Yeah. So this one too, like you can see, the what do we say? The constraints are pretty small. So like you could do brute forcing here too, and it would work too. For a number to have distinct prime divisors, I don't remember a property, something like that. Like you could check if the number satisfies this condition, then it is good. So what did I do? I actually calculated all the divisors of n, like n the number, from 2 to n minus 1. Okay, from 2 to n minus 1, as you can see. Yeah. So I calculated all the divisors from 2 to I actually, yeah. So if I mod j is equal to 0 and is prime is j, like the number which divides j is, sorry, the number which divides n is prime, we increase the count, like the number of prime factors of a. Prime factors, yeah, prime factors of n, actually n, not a. We increase the counter, and after we are done with all of this, if we have to check if the count is equal to 2, then we increase our final answer by 1. Else we what do we say, we skip. Okay, else we do not increase the counter. Like we need to have two prime divisors, right? So for example, a good example would be um, I'm not getting a good example. Anyways, you get the point. So let's move on to the next problem. Robot sequences. Yeah. So in this one, what you have to do? Like you start from the origin on a Cartesian plane. Let me bring up the. Let's do our. Yeah. So you have the Cartesian plane. You start from the origin. You move up, right, like left, again down or something like that. You have to check that you end up at the origin, like you have a sequence, and after the sequence you end up at the origin or not. Actually not after the sequence, but after any substring, after any substring of characters, do you reach at the sequence or not, and how many times do you do that? So again, you can see the constraints are pretty small. It's 200. So you could like iterate through every possible substring. You could iterate through every possible substring and check if it works or not. Yeah. So like you could do first we'll make all pairs of 2, 2, 2 and check if they end up at the origin or not, and then we increase our final counter by 1. Then for all the threes, then for all the fours, and then all for all the fives and all. Yeah. So let's see how the code looks like. I wonder why did it submit these two times, but anyways, yeah, yeah. So if it equals to r, I kept two variables, one for the x-axis and one for the y. Let me just I kept two variables, one for the x-axis and one for the y. Right, I increase my x-axis. My x-axis variable. If it is up, I increase my y-axis variable, and opposite for the down and left ones. And if I like at the end, if I reach 0 comma 0, that's the origin, I increase my final answer by 1. Also, like this is for all the possible, this two loops create all the possible substrings, like for 2 comma n plus 1 and j 0 comma n minus I plus 1. These are the lengths. These are responsible for creating the length of the substrings. So yes, let's move on to the next problem. No, fancy fence. So this one is, oh yes, this one was great. So I actually haven't seen the editorial for this one yet. Uh, I did not see the editorial for these two, these three even, these four, whatever. But but after I solved them, I saw the editorial to see what actually did they do. But for this one, I haven't seen the main editorial yet, so I am not sure what the correct solution would look like. But what I have done is like I created all the possible all the possible angles, which are which can be accepted, and if it is equal, if this n is equal to any one of those, then I print yes, else no. Like as you can see, the constraint is pretty small. It's ought to be like the degrees possible are 360, and they have given it 180. So we check. Yeah. So we check for each one. Now, how exactly do we construct that array for which we need to check if n exists there or not? So, as you might know, notepad would be fine. As you might know, the formula for number of uh, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah. So for in any polygon, the number of sorry the sum of the angles is always equal to not paint. The sum of angles is always equal to um, n minus 2 into 180. Yeah. So n minus 2 into 180. So for each angle, that would be equal to divide by n. Getting it? So what do we do? What do like we just like simply create this array from scratch and match it to this n. If it's true, we return yes. If it's false, we return no. So let's see the code. Actually, I coded this in Python because this I'm not familiar with this int to float conversions and all. So let's see. If n is less than 60, we just print no. Okay. Um, uh, yeah. So this is the test case input, and actually you construct the array right here. Okay, so z is equal to 180 into I minus 2 by I. So for 650, I actually did some random numbers. So 650, 700 and all. So all of them reached to 179 degrees. The degree of one, what am I actually saying? I mean, I'm not getting it. Yeah, so the value of one angle ranged from like 1 degrees to 179 degrees. 180 degrees was like it from 600 to something like 600 to something like 8,000 or 9,000. It kept on increasing till 180, but it did not reach 180. So I just thought of keeping it to 650 for simplicity, because we reached 179 by like 600 or something. Yeah. So 3 for I in range 3, z is equal to this, and if z is integer z, like if the angle is not something like the angle is not a floating point, it's an integer, we append it to a. So for example, where did the paint go? It actually is constructing an abstract polygon. Let's take this polygon, and it's calculating the angles for this. Okay, it's calculating the angle for this, and if the value of that angle, actually this is a regular one, okay, regular polygon. If the angle, the value of this angle is not an integer, it skips. Okay, like it should be an integer, and then it appends it to this. So basically, we are creating all the possible values, and then we just, like, if n in a, we print yes, if else we return, and sorry, we print yes and return, else we print no, and we are done. So let's move on to, like, these two problems I couldn't solve, but there's a user named just j, sorry if I pronounce it wrong. Conan and Agasa play a card game. He or she told me that we'd the occurrences of, okay, let me explain this one. I couldn't solve it. So basically, we are given some cards, okay, and two players, Conan and Agasa. Conan always goes first. Okay, so Conan always goes first. So let's see. Let's take the first case, 4, 5, 7. Okay, and what what does the Conan always goes first, right? And both the players play optimally. So if a player chooses a number, let's say it chose 5, the person chose 5. Also, although that's not optimal. Actually, that is optimal. Okay, I'll tell that later why it is. If a person chooses 5, then the card including that and all the cards with value less than that value are removed. So 5 and 4 will be removed, and we just have 7 remaining. Actually, I am so sorry. That was not optimal. I was wrong there. So what do we have to do is, whenever there is a person who cannot choose any more cards, then that person loses. So they are just fancy words for, if the person who makes the last move wins. So for example, we have 4, 5, 7. So Conan goes first, so he can choose 7, remove all the cards, and then he wins. Okay, Agasa didn't even get a chance to play, and he lost, or she lost, whatever. So 1-1. So in this case, like, they gave a hint in this. If Conan goes first, if Conan goes first, then he removes. Okay, actually, I lacked a bit of explanation there. We don't remove all the cards equal to this one, but strictly less than this one. Yeah, A of j is less than A of I for all j. So we remove all the cards less than this one, strictly less than this one, but not equal to this one, and also this card. Okay, so we remove this one. Conan has only one option, so he removes this card, and then Agasa has one option. He or she removes this card, and then Agasa wins. Okay, so now I can prove it to you that whatever the combination of cards we have, Conan will always win except for one case, which I'll explain it a bit later. So let's take 1, 3, 4, 4, 4, 6, 7, 5, 8, 9. Okay. So Conan chooses 9 and he wins. Suppose he has 8. Okay, he has 8. So Conan can choose 7, and so all the cards he can, he'll choose 7, and all the cards less than to it will be removed. Okay, so let's remove 8. And then again, Agasa has only one option, so he chooses, or she chooses 8, and then Conan chooses the last 8, and he wins. Now, like, you might wonder, why is he choosing 7? He can choose 5 too, but it's given clearly that both the players, assuming both players play optimally, so they play the best possible option at the current situation. Okay, so yeah, so basically, like, this works for each and every example. You can try it out for yourself, except for one. Like, for we have an array of numbers: 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 7, 7. Yeah, something like that. So as you might notice, all of the numbers are in a pair, like, their counts are even. Okay, their counts are even. This is what just J said it to me. I still like I understood the logic but I wasn't able to implement it. But yeah, anyways, we choose we store their counters, and if all of them are even, then it's Agasa, else it's Conan every time. So how does this work? So for example, Conan chooses something. Let's say he chooses 6. Okay, so he removes 6, and not these three, but he can affect all these 5, and these will be removed. Actually, why 6? Let's take 7 for optimal solution, and all these cards will be removed as they are less than 7. This was Conan's stance. Now we have Agasa's stance, and he or she can choose this one. Then Conan chooses this, and then Agasa chooses this, and Agasa wins. So you get the logic. Whenever there are even numbers of like equal numbers, then Conan does not get to finish last. Conan does not get to finish last, and therefore he or she loses. So that's the basic idea. Like ping me if you could solve this one. Anyways, let's move on to the last problem. I don't know graph theory, so I don't think I can explain this one. Yeah. So basically what there was something weird, like I solved the problem in first try in C++, but it showed a different answer in my editor, which was actually correct, and a wrong, like a wrong answer in the like the code forces does. So that's like weird. Then I coded it in Python and submitted it. And something else is weird too, like this hasn't turned green yet, so this one hasn't turned green yet, but yeah, anyways. So we are given some queries, not actually queries, but yeah, some let's okay, we are given some queries. The count of the query is this one, and some queries with two things. One is the like the operator, we can say, and the second is the number. If the operator is plus, we add one to our storage. Like let's say we have a set. Okay, we add one to our set. If it is equal to minus, then we remove that from our set. Okay, and if it is plus, sorry, if it is a question mark, then we print. Okay, so let me explain. This is the okay, actually let me like directly tell you the approach. So for example, we have a number 241. Okay, so we store the number in a binary, like in its binary modular form, like if I'm clear with it, two, like for example 241. Okay, so we iterate from the number from the left or right, doesn't matter. We iterate from the number from the left, and then divide each digit by 2, and store its like the remainder in a string. Okay, so for 2 modulo 2 will be 0, so we store 0. Then 4 modulo 2 is 0 again, and then 1 modulo 2 is 1, so 1. Okay, and then we convert this to int. I'm writing like in the it's a very bad. Okay, let me move on to notepad. I should do notepad. Yeah, int, then 001, and then this will be 1. Okay, so this 241 is basically 1 for us. We need to read it as 1. Okay, and then when we are called a question mark, we print all and we are given a number, we print all the numbers. Sorry, we print the count of the numbers which have their binary representation as this, like the binary modular representation, you may call that, something like that, with the binary modular representation as 1. So the second question mark is here. So 0101. So we need to print all the numbers which were after their binary modular something are equal to 0101 or okay, 0101 or simply 101. Okay. So how do we do that? As I said, we just store their binary modulo representation. So 001 would be like just 1, and then let's just do this for all these test cases. So 361 would be 101. Okay, 241 would be 001, and so again 1. Then 01, sorry, this is a question mark. Okay, 101 would be, yeah, 101 itself. Then minus 101. So okay, we have minus 101. So we delete, like we just store it like okay, anyways, this is just too cumbersome, so let me just move towards the code and I'll explain how do we do that. So what we actually do is we store the binary representation in a map. Okay, in a map, and whenever we encounter a plus, we just increase the value of that, we increase the value of that by 1, and we encounter a minus, we decrease that value, we encounter a question mark, we print that value. Okay, it's as simple as that. So I created a dictionary. Okay, like it's a map in Python. And if the operator and n, okay, I try for in Python actually, if that does not exist, the key does not exist, it throws a key error. Okay, in C++ it just creates a new one. So like I try and accept block, I've used it 2 times. So let's move on to here and then here. Actually that was uh, okay. So for we take s, okay, for I in a string, the string representation of n, s plus equal to str of integer of I mod 2, if that makes sense. So for every character, it converts it to int, calculates the mod by 2, and then again converts it to the string form, and then adds it to s. Now we make s like an integer. So for example here it was, so for in this line we had s as 001, it converts it to 1. It's basically what it's doing. So if now, if op is equal to plus, the operator is plus, we increase the count of that s by 1. And if that does not exist, like it does not exist, so instead we just create that s and add 1 to it. So we just initialize it to 1. As I said, Python shows a key error in this, while C++ just adds it and then adds 1 to it. Yeah. So if OP is equal to minus, we just decrease that counter by 1, except A of S is 0. Okay, and if we decrease that counter by 1, like if it reaches a negative value, then this one. But actually, that does not matter. It would matter in C++, because C++ would make it 0 first and then decrease it by 1. Yeah, anyways, and then let's move on to this. It's just like same, try, it would print a of int of n. Yeah, uh, a of int of n, like actually the keys were integer types, and n was a string. N was a string, so we convert it to integer for the key, and then we print the value of that key here. And if it does not exist, actually as I said, it shows a key error. So yeah, if it does not exist, we print 0, simply 0, because it like there were no values with that binary modulo representation, whatever you may call it. So that was it for this one. Thank you.